Please like and subscribe. It was more than you know, and thank you. In April 2019, during Walt Disney's Investor Day, Marvel Studios announced a couple of shows that would be on their new streaming service, Disney+. The big ones they announced were WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Also, there was Hawkeye, but come on, it's fucking Hawkeye, bro. No one cares. Hopefully it proves me wrong, but come on. To be perfectly honest, I wasn't that excited. I mean, yeah, I was a bit hyped to see all this new content, but personally, I was kind of getting burnt out. To give you my history, back in 2016, I tried to get into Marvel, but I didn't have the money to see the movies in theaters. I was excited for Captain America Civil War with the inclusion of Spider-Man into the MCU, who is my favorite superhero, but I didn't get into it until 2018, when I heard about all the hype around Infinity War, and I wanted to see it as well. I watched the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 on Netflix for preparation, and my family was there, so inadvertently, I got my family into Marvel. So we binged watched all the movies, rented them, and caught up to the lore. Ever since then, I've been watching Marvel movies. Now, I haven't watched all the movies, but in my opinion, Marvel is very consistent with its quality. If only it kind of dips with the Ant-Man movies being mid, the first two Thor movies being legitimately bad, and maybe Captain Marvel, but that's just kind of mid and forgettable. I think Endgame was great, if only it serves as a better event rather than viewing it as a movie, because compared with Infinity War is better. I heard from many people saying they would stop watching the MCU as it had been completed for them. This and the fact of the burnout, as there will always be 2 to 3 movies a year, led to many people getting tired of the MCU. And I agree with them. I think the MCU needed a break to give people a chance to breathe, and the prayers were answered, but not as they expected.
President Trump declaring the coronavirus a national emergency. The move freeing billions for the fight as America contracts to slow the rapidly spreading pandemic. The number of cases in the U.S.
Ignorant savage.
There are 2 futures for a pandemic like corona, fast and slow. Which future we will see depends on how we all react to it in the early days of the outbreak. A fast pandemic will be horrible and cost many lives.
Yeah, the pandemic hit and everything was delayed. Like, damn, Black Widow still hasn't come out yet. The last MCU project that was released was Far From Home on July 2nd, 2019. WandaVision only finally released on January 15th of this year, 11 days after.
And are gathering around the area where the Senate was in session.
But it was essentially a 1.5 year hiatus from the MCU, which may have possibly hurt their profits, but I think helped them in the long run, as it gave audiences a nice break to get back in the world of the MCU. So after almost a 1.5 years, WandaVision and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier have finally released, and I'm here to share my thoughts on Marvel's first big shows. Also spoilers. WandaVision focuses on 2 major characters, Wanda and Vision, but mostly focuses on Wanda's trauma. The show starts with Wanda and Vision in the 60s aesthetic. One thing I really like is that they're very faithful to how shows were in the eras. I love all the props, the cropping, the filters. It was all very faithful, except for the Malcolm in the Middle and Office parodies, because I feel like they didn't go all the way, but I'll explain that a bit later. Main intrigue in the show is about the mystery and what is going on with the town. I believe the first few episodes are really good at gauging the audience, as there will always be normal episodes, but then there will be something off, whether it be someone choking or red blood. The show really plays up the mystery until episode 4. Now I'm kind of conflicted because on one hand, I feel like the show was super original and unique, but then it suddenly switches to the usual Marvel fanfare. Like that and wish the mystery continued. But the mystery was obvious since the beginning, so it makes sense for them to reveal it on the 4th episode. The real world shows Monica with a couple of others. The funny thing was that the day before this episode came out, I told my friend that he didn't need to watch Captain Marvel to understand it, but I guess I'm wrong. I'm interested to see what they do with all the scrolls and stuff. near the end credit scene. Monica and the rest of the supporting cast do a good job and their dynamics were good. However, I won't lie, whenever they were on screen, I wanted to see more of just Wanda and Vision. I wish to see more of them, but I often felt like the writers were struggling to make them do something until the finale. I love all the callbacks to other films, but sometimes it felt a little bit too much. Also, like they mentioned the blip and how it affected Monica. I wish they spent a little bit more time focusing on that, but I understand that the show isn't about that, but rather about the relationship between Wanda and Vision. Natalie Portman and Paul Bettany do a great job as Wanda and Vision. The relationship genuinely feels real, and I actually care about them. In Infinity War, when Vision died, I didn't really care, mostly because Vision was a side character and I didn't have enough time for me to care about him. However, now thanks to this show, I have grown an attachment to him, and I think that is WandaVision's greatest strength. It gets us invested in Wanda and Vision, developing their characters. The visuals of the show look great when they're doing parodies as the colors pop out, and I love the unique intros and fun commercials. However, I think many other people have mentioned it, but when it goes into the real world, the color grading looks super weird. I don't know, it just looks very gray and looks very ugly. Even though what happened is explained, the show is able to keep us invested as Vision begins to get conscious about how abnormal his situation is. Along with the fact that Monica and others begin to bother Wanda, she begins to lose control. But a curveball is sent at us when on episode 5, Pietro comes back as Evan Peters, the Quicksilver from the X-Men universe. Now personally, when that happened to me and my family, the rest of the collectively thought, who the fuck was that? I think I got spoiled on it, so it didn't excite me as much, but then I learned it was the same Quicksilver for X-Men, and I got hyped because I thought of the possibilities. Here's the thing, a lot of people got hyped and everyone had their own theories. Everyone was saying that Doctor Strange was coming and that it would connect to Multiverse of Madness. People were saying that this would result in them connecting the X-Men universe for Deadpool, and they got Toby and Andrew Garfield into Spider-Man 3. Also something about Mephisto. Listen, all I'm saying is that Marvel YouTube has so much content to milk. This was a double-edged sword for the show though, because there were many theories that people started putting their expectations really high, so they were bound to get disappointed. Even the people who worked on the show said the finale would probably disappoint people. Some might say that it's the crew's fault for fanning the fire with the addition of Evan Peters, but personally I'm still glad they did it because it was a cool reference either way. People also might say it's the fault of fans for theorizing and putting their expectations too high. But the thing is, when your show is about mystery, of course fans are going to theorize about what's happening next. It was thanks to the mystery that everyone was talking about it week to week, because everyone was so excited and everyone had their thoughts about each episode, as every episode felt different. Either way, it was a lose-lose situation for the show. For me, I had one theory that didn't come true, and is that I wanted Thanos to come out of nowhere as a visualization of Wanda's trauma. I think it would have been really cool, but I'm okay with that not happening. I wasn't really disappointed, as I had no expectations of the show and I didn't really read any of the theories. The final episode occurred and they did not stick the landing as well as they could have. Most people agree that the ending was alright, but could have been better. Ignoring the expectations discussion, I kinda thought that the Ralph Boner thing was funny because penis. However, everything else was good to alright. I think the biggest problem of the show was that it was losing its identity. By the time they got to the 2000s to 2010s sitcom parody, they couldn't do it as faithfully as they could because they had to deal with all the plot related stuff. Now that I might be showing how Wanda was losing control but whatever, the twist that it was Agatha all along who was the villain, and the song, which is legitimately a banger, was pretty cool. I didn't see it coming, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't like to delve in theory culture or anything because while it is fun, I often leave myself spoiled or disappointed. That's why I like to turn off my brain and just enjoy things on my own. But that's just my personal taste. I don't know if Agatha was a good villain or not. She was charismatic, but she felt like a Disney Channel villain, if you know what I mean. I feel like if she had more time as a villain, she would have been better. I like the episode showing all of Wanda's pain and suffering because it really showed how everything good in her life was taken from her because of things out of control, explaining why now she's trying to control her own little bubble, the town. At the end of the episode, when Agatha called Wanda the Scarlet Witch, I was like, oh my god, they never called her the Scarlet Witch once in the whole MCU. Anyway, back to the ending, a lot of things happened, and I believe that's another problem. There were originally supposed to be 10 episodes in the show, but had to be cut down to 9 due to the pandemic hitting. And it shows as in Monica and the sword plotline feels underdeveloped and unfinished. Monica gets superpowers, which is cool, but doesn't use it as much, only to block a bullet, which I don't like the unintentional implications, but whatever. And can we talk about the other villain, which was that one white guy? Like, he was so unnecessary. He just got ran over. They definitely needed more time with the supporting cast and the sword plotline. However, the biggest problem was again the identity problem, as it just became another Marvel show with them flying in the air and shooting lasers and stuff. I don't want to see the same old. I want to see some unique things. However, I can't lie, the discussion between WandaVision and WandaVision was really interesting and I liked it a lot. With the Wanda fight, I don't know. There was some good stuff when Wanda had to get braided by the town she enslaved and when she had to choose between her family and the freedom for the people. But when she was just shooting lasers and spells, it felt kind of lame. The CGI was also not at its best. I don't know, it just looks a bit off, but the suit was hella fine and fire, and I'm glad it's very comic accurate. The series ends with Wanda having to say a heartfelt goodbye to her children and Vision. I didn't cry, but I did feel for her. A lot of people said they did cry, and I think that shows what a good job Marvel did at making us care for Wanda and Vision. If that was the goal, then they succeeded. WandaVision may have not been perfect, but it was really good. It was refreshing, fun to talk about, and interesting. It was a great way to start Phase 4 after the hiatus. Curious to see where her story is taken, and I would like to see what happens to Vision at the end. As the White Vision now has the memories restored, does that mean Vision comes back? Only time can tell. With Agatha not dead, and with the end credit scene telling us anything, it seems like Wanda's story has only just begun, and I personally can't wait to see where it's headed. The Falcon and Winter Soldier was released in March, and I don't know if it was just me, but it wasn't as popular as WandaVision. With WandaVision, I always had to stay away from the Twitter trending tab because everyone would be talking about it, and I didn't want spoilers. Also check out Eekey on Twitter and blow it up. Hello! But with this series, I felt like almost no one was talking about it. I really didn't get spoiled in it, and I had to actively look for discussion online. I think the reason with this is because, to be honest, the show is a slow burn. While WandaVision had a lot of episodes, each episode had a unique vibe and twist, making it engaging. However, the Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes all feel similar, and this is because the director and team made this show as if it was a 6-hour movie. There's nothing wrong with that, but I believe it contributed to the lack of conversation, as many people couldn't give their full opinion on the show without seeing it in its full totality. Just as you wouldn't judge a movie from a 20-minute clip, you wouldn't judge a show without it being complete yet. Another reason for the lack of conversation is probably because many people were burned by WandaVision's finale. Because so many people had theories of what was going to happen, when their expectations weren't met, many felt a bit hurt. That's probably why so many people didn't make as many theories or had thoughts on what was going to happen next, as they didn't want to feel disappointed again. Although I may be wrong, because when the first episode premiered, it had more views than WandaVision's first episodes. Either way, The Falcon and Winter Soldier was really good and I really enjoyed it, but there was some problems to it. So the series starts off with Bucky and Sam both dealing with the aftermath of Endgame, with Steve gone, everyone coming back due to the blip, and Bucky now being a free man. While the first 2 episodes may be a bit slow, I do think they were necessary. I think I wasn't engaged in the first episode as I was too focused on what was going to happen rather than appreciating the small moments. These small moments include Sam struggling to get alone in a new world, showing how even superheroes struggle like the rest of the working class. I also enjoyed Bucky dealing with his trauma in therapy. It felt humanizing, and I liked when he does small moments, such as when he was hitting on that one chick, or when he has that realization that the old man is the father of a victim he killed when he was mind controlled. Although the series has the Winter Soldier name in it, we don't get as much attention on Bucky, but rather on Sam. Of course, I understand the show is about how Sam became the new Captain America, but I wish more time was spent with Bucky, as we don't visit the plot point about his trauma until the end. Instead, we spend most of the time seeing him be disappointed in Sam because he gave away the shield. While that is interesting, I wish that they also talked more about his trauma. But to be fair, Bucky not shooting Zimmer and letting go in his violent ways was great, and yeah, I don't know. Anyway, Bucky's still best boy. The main meat of the show, however, is Sam and his struggle being the next Captain America. Marvel could have easily just made Sam into Captain America after Endgame, but I'm glad they spent more time developing him and making him struggle. Seeing Sam having to struggle with what it means to be Captain America and whether the world will accept a black Captain America is all great stuff and very intriguing. The stuff with Isaiah and how unfair his treatment was as a black Winter Soldier is heartbreaking. It only fuels Sam into being Captain America. Also, the boat is a great metaphor of the shield. It shows Sam that whether it be his boat or his shield, he has to uphold the legacies left behind and can't just give up. Let's make it clear, the show is political. Like, you can't talk about it without talking about the political implications underneath the show. And some people might hate it, but in the words of H-Bomber Guy,
Lots of people think politics can be a turn-off for gamers, but I've done some research and discovered that politics is objectively fun and all gamers love it all the time. And the people who say they hate seeing them in games actually love politics even more, they just wish they were seeing different politics.
my favorite character in the show is John Walker because he's so interesting. John Walker is the soldier who is assigned as the new Captain America, and he is literally a personification of the problems that Sam faces. John Walker looks like the most stereotypical white guy with blonde hair and blue eyes. He's literally a personification of everything that Sam is not. John Walker is such a good character because he's so hateable, as we know that nobody deserves to be Captain America more than Sam. John Walker often ruins operations in the show and goes guns blazing. Although John may be hateable, he is not entirely, as the show does enough where you can understand he is not a bad person, but just a person serving his country. However, John Walker doesn't truly become as detestable until episode 4. Episode 4 might be the best episode in the series. Sam facing Carly, Zima acting like Zemo, the Wakandans pulling up, and that ending, like holy shit. I love how they use the super serum in the show. Zemo has this interesting ideology with how he believes the serums will usher in supremacy and how they all must be destroyed. Believes that although Steve Rogers was not corrupted, he's just a one-of-a-kind guy. I love the contrast with how Sam would reject the super serum while John Walker actually takes the serum. It shows how truly different they are. But of course, the highlight is the ending. After John's best friend dies, Walker in rage kills Carly's friend in public with the shield. This felt crazy. Even though it wasn't rated R, it still felt brutal and showed how far John has gone. The symbolism in this show is also great, showing how John, who was meant to protect the people, instead uses the shield as a weapon, thus tainting it. This could also be symbolism on how the military-industrial complex uses defense and protection of the people to justify atrocities they do, and how these groups are only held accountable if they are caught. The only reason John Walker gets punished in the next episode was because everyone saw him do it in public, and if it wasn't for that, he would still be Captain America. The next episode has one of the most cathartic fights in the series, with Sam and Bucky fighting the super soldier John Walker. Although they won the fight, it felt hella brutal and felt like they are fighting a Goliath. My favorite character in the show would have to be Zemo. In Civil War, I didn't really care about him that much, but here he is sort of like a wild card in the group, sort of like Loki in Thor Ragnarok. They gave him a lot more personality and he felt more alive. Now that might be a criticism as well, as Zemo's humor is in contrast with the tone the show is going for. However, I personally don't mind. I hope we see more of him in the MCU, as I really like them. The biggest issues with the series, however, is with the Power Broker, the Flag Smashers, and the ending. While the reveal of the Power Broker being Sharon was cool, I felt like it could have been a bit more explored. The end credit scene kind of felt lackluster, but hey, she could be a cool villain in the future. No, my biggest problem was with the Flag Smashers. The Flag Smashers' goal, I could get with how they wanted to give resources to refugees and how they feel like they were left behind after the blip. I think they made Carly's goal a little bit too understandable and agreeable, so they had to force her to become a villain. Like when she made that car explode killing the workers, it felt unnecessary and contrived in my opinion. The whole series felt like they didn't know what to do with them until the final episode where they tried to stop the vote of the GRC. I don't think they made her as engaging as a villain as she could have been. This might be because there was a rumored virus plotline that was not included because of, the pandemic. Honestly, I feel like they should have made John Walker the villain. He was hateable and we already saw him going down a dark path, so for the final episode we could have had him try to kill a terrorist while Sam and Bucky tried to stop him. Instead, he got redeemed half-assedly and teams up with Sam and Bucky. He then becomes a US agent in a fire-ass costume, I won't lie, but I don't know how I feel about that. Some people said they were okay with him not being demonized completely. While that is true, I feel like he could have made an engaging villain and made the finale better. But I don't know, the director said the ending was supposed to make everyone like John Walker at the end, and I'm just like, what? Is that he becomes a rival to the new Captain America while not entirely being a villain, but butting heads and often clashing with him. If that's the direction, I would love to see it, because it perfects as Steve Rogers was the idealized Captain America, John Walker is the ugly truth of what Captain America is, and Sam is the Captain America the world needs. Representation is important, and seeing a black man as Captain America is inspiring, and I'm glad that we people of color are finally getting represented in mass media. I love everything about the suit as it feels directly off the comics and looks so cool. Marvel has been on a roll making these comic accurate suits not look ridiculous, have the exaggerated swagger of a black tee. I love the training montage as it felt so cool, and I always loved how Captain America fought with his shield as it felt so versatile. Seeing Sam become Captain America and not having to use the super soldier serum to be a hero is great and shows it's not the serum that makes Captain America, but rather the heart. I also love the scene after Carly died where Captain America criticizes those in power and how people should have a say in the matters that affect them all. Of course, this is still produced by the Disney monopoly, but I'm glad to see it at all. Overall, the Falcon and Winter Soldier had a lot to say, and some of it was well spoken while other moments missed the mark. It wasn't perfect, but it was still good. I hope it isn't forgotten as it feels like other Marvel shows, so hopefully it doesn't get lost in the sea of Marvel films. However, it did its purpose. It made us care for the new Captain America and Winter Soldier. In conclusion, for Marvel's first Disney Plus shows, they are great. I believe they excelled at what they were doing and served the purpose of making us care for the characters that otherwise would have gone sidelined in the movies. If I had to choose between the two, it would be WandaVision. While the Falcon and Winter Soldier had a lot to say, it didn't feel as unique as WandaVision, and compared to the rest of the Marvel films, being unique is the best thing you can do to be memorable. They both had problems with the pandemic and with the ending being mid. Hopefully they are able to learn from their mistakes for future shows. Makes you wonder how much Loki was affected by the pandemic, but we'll wait and see. Thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe with the bell and leave a like and comment. It helps me grow. Thanks to the engagement from viewers, so it will be very appreciated. Follow me on Twitter and take care of yourself always. See you later.